Hey guys, it's Alexandra from creationcrochet.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Tunisian Simple Stitch ear warmer. So we're going to be working this stitch here in rows. This project is beginner friendly. It is basically a rectangle that we're going to work up and then seam together in this twisted pattern. If you don't like the twisted look, then you could just whip stitch your ends together and you would have a tube. For my ear warmer, I am using Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick. This is a number 6 weight yarn, and the color is Gray Marble. And I really like the Thick and Quick yarn that has the flex in it, which is more of like a tweed yarn. You will be able to achieve the same gauge with some number 5 weight yarn, so definitely just check your measurements as you go. This ear warmer is really easy to adjust the width simply by adding a stitch or two to make it the width that you want to fit your head, and then it's worked lengthwise, which is the circumference of your head, so it's really easy to change that length by adding or subtracting rows. This is one of those projects that it's super easy to just measure as you go and stop when you get to the size that you're looking for. To go with this super bulky yarn, I am using my M13 9mm Tunisian crochet hook. I got this hook from We Crochet. I think it is absolutely beautiful. It is really comfortable to hold. It is interchangeable here. I can change this part here and put a smaller or a larger cable on it. You don't need a large cable for this. You might not even need a cable at all, though I think it might be a little bit tight with the super bulky yarn. To help me weave in my ends, I am going to be using a pair of jewelry pliers, so you might find this helpful to use to save your fingers. I am going to be showing you a sample of this stitch pattern, just the how to work the stitch pattern, with a different yarn and a different hook, but same exact concept. So that sample is going to start with a chain 13. But before I show you how to work the chain, I am going to put up a chart that shows how many chains you're going to want to have depending on the size that you're working. Gauge isn't terribly essential for this project, at least not to take ahead of time, but definitely you're going to want to have a soft tape measure on hand so that you can measure the width after working a couple rows. I will show you that once we get there. And then you'll want to measure the length of your rectangle so you can ensure that it's going to be the correct size. Alrighty, let's talk about the curling of the Tunisian Simple Stitch fabric. By nature, this stitch pattern curls, so if I let this stay here, it would curl up. That's just the nature of the stitch pattern. You can ease it a little bit by going up hook sizes. You want to use a hook size larger than what you normally would when you're crocheting. So when I'm just normally crocheting, I use an H8 5mm crochet hook with my Red Heart Super Saver. Here in Tunisian Crochet, I'm going to use a J10 6mm, so that's up 2 hook sizes. Even that though is still not going to prevent the curling. It is still going to be there somewhat, so you can block it to get rid of that, or when you assemble it, it will also smooth out with the weight of the seams and the project. I'm going to start with a slip knot. So I brought the yarn over my fingers here, wrap it around my index finger 2 times, hold the tension with my middle finger and my thumb, pull the loop on the left up over the other one but not off my finger. Then I'll pull the loop that's on the left now up over the other one and off my finger. Insert my crochet hook where the loop that's on my finger is, pull it off. I'll hold the working yarn in my right hand and the short tail end in my left. I'm going to just tighten it to normal tension. Before I begin here with the chain, the stitch multiple for this stitch pattern is really simple. There is none. So any number of stitches works. If you work 10 chains, you're going to have 10 stitches, and you just work evenly amongst those 10 stitches. There is no set stitch multiple for this, so it makes it even more versatile because you can get it even closer to the width that you're looking for. simply by just working one more or one less stitch at a time. So when it comes to gauge, if you need to adjust your stitches, you can do it just by adding or taking away one chain at a time, which will be equal to one stitch. I'm going to start with a chain 13. To chain, we're going to yarn over our hook and pull through the loop. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. I have 3 chains here. I'm going to go ahead and work a total of 13. Alright, I have my 13 chains worked here. The foundation of this row is going to be worked into the back bump of these chains. So looking right now, you see the V shape, that is the front of the chain. We just want to rotate it so that we're looking at the back and the back bump right there in the center. The loop that's on our hook is going to count as our first stitch, and that first bump that's right there we're going to skip. The second bump is where we're going to start working into. We're going to take our crochet hook, insert it right underneath, picking up that loop on our hook. So when you do that, you're going to insert right in the center of the chain, leaving the V shape on the bottom and picking up just the top back bump on your hook. Then yarn over, pull through, and you have 2 loops on your hook. We'll do the same thing all the way down, so insert into the next stitch, picking up just the back bump on your hook. Yarn over, pull through, we have 3 loops on our hook. Insert your hook into the next stitch, picking up just the back bump on your hook. Yarn over, pull through, we have 4 loops on our hook. Continue working down the row. And now we have the same number of loops on our hook as chains that we started with. For my sample here, I have 13 loops on my hook. And it's going to continue being 13 stitches all the way up. So take time to count if you need to, make sure that you haven't lost any stitches along the way. This is the forward pass of the first row. We work into the back bump so that it gives us a cleaner finished edge. You can also work into the front of the chains, directly into the center if that's what you prefer. But I really like how this gives you the V-shaped stitches on the bottom, which will match the top once we get there. To work the return pass is going to be the same for each of the remaining rows. We're going to start by yarning over and pulling through the first loop only. This counts as a chain 1 for the row. Then you'll probably have to scrunch up your stitches to get them closer to the end so it's easier to work through. We only do this chain 1 in the beginning. For the rest of them, we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, leaving the rest on our hook. Then yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, leaving the rest on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, leaving the rest on the hook. Continue all the way down, yarn over, pull through 2 loops only. And now we've completed row 1. For the remaining rows, we're going to work into the front vertical bar of the stitches. We do not start with a chain 1 here. We only start with a chain 1 on the other side when we work our return pass. So we're about to work a forward pass for row 2. The loop that's on our hook is going to count as our first stitch, so we're not going to work into the first stitch below it. To begin the next stitch, we're going to find the vertical bar. And if you look closer at your stitch, you'll see that it kind of looks like the V-shaped stitch there, with the V-shaped stitch coming out of the center. But you can see a back leg there and a front leg. That front leg is the vertical bar that we want to work into. So we're going to insert our hook directly into the center, picking up just that top vertical bar, only one loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through, and we have 2 loops on our hook. Find the vertical bar of the next stitch, insert your hook right into the center, picking up just that top loop on your hook. Yarn over, pull through that loop, and now we have 3 loops on our hook. Find the vertical bar of the next stitch, insert right into the center, and when I say into the center, I mean we're leaving that back leg there. We're working into the center, picking up just that top front leg, that top vertical bar. Yarn over, pull through, we have 4 loops on our hook. We're going to continue picking up just the top front vertical bar on our hook, yarn over and pull through, and we'll have the same number of loops on our hook as we've had previously. That's my second to last stitch of the row. For the last stitch, instead of picking up a vertical bar, I'm going to work into the entire stitch. So I'm going to find the edge, and I'm going to insert my hook through. It's going to pick up 2 loops there. That's a V-shaped stitch there. We want to pick up both of those loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through both as well. This is going to help form a edging there that looks like the V-shaped stitches from the chain below. And right now our forward pass for row 2 is complete. Now we need to work a return pass. So we're going to start by yarning over and pulling through 1 loop only. That's our chain 1, and we only do it on the return. And I'll scrunch up my stitches so they're closer to the edge. And I work it just as I did before. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, leaving the rest on my hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, leaving the rest on my hook. And I'm going to continue all the way down the row. And now row 2 is complete. You can already see the stitches forming there. They look like sideways V-shaped stitches, and then the vertical bars are lining up. All the remaining rows are going to be worked exactly the same as row 2. So let's work one more row together. The loop on our hook counts as our first stitch, so we don't work into this vertical bar. As you can see here though, you are forming a V-shaped stitch on the side, which is going to match what we're creating on the edge and what we started with. My next stitch of the row is going to be worked into the top front vertical bar there. So I'm inserting into the center, picking up just that top loop only of the vertical bar, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through. I have 2 loops on my hook. Insert my hook into the center of the next stitch, picking up just the top vertical bar on my hook, yarn over, pull through. I have 3 loops on my hook. Insert my hook into the center of the next stitch, picking up just the top vertical bar, yarn over, pull through, 4 loops on my hook, and I'll continue working my forward pass all the way down until I get to the last stitch. And now that I'm here at the last stitch, instead of working into the vertical bar, I'm going to insert into the side edge, picking up 2 loops on my hook, that V-shaped stitch there, yarn over and pull through. The forward pass is done and I'm ready to return. I'm going to start by chaining 1, so yarn over, pull through 1 loop only, then scrunch up my stitches, yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, and continue all the way down, yarn over, pull through 2 loops only. And there we are, row 3 finished. The rest of your rows are going to be worked exactly the same. Let's talk about gauge. The easiest way to measure gauge for this project is just going to be to measure the width that you have. And you can check this after about 3 or 4 rows of working. The width gauge is just going to be how wide the ear warmer is going to be for you. So this one isn't as essential, just depending on the size that you're going for. But to measure this, you'll just take your soft tape measure, lay it on the edge of the left side, and measure across to the edge of the right side. If you want an ear warmer of the same widths that I have provided, then you'll want to match up here. So if you're measuring smaller than my given measurements, you're going to want to go up a hook size, rework your sample, and then measure again. If you're measuring larger than my given measurements, then you're going to want to go down a hook size, rework your sample, and then measure. If you're measuring a little bit smaller or a little bit larger and it doesn't matter to you, then you can just continue on. The gauge lengthwise, you'll take your soft tape measure, lay it on the bottom of where row starts, measure 6 rows up to the top of where the row ends, and that is going to be 3 1/4 inches tall. Length gauge is not terribly essential as long as you measure your finished piece. So after I put up the chart and you get all your rows worked, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to talk about measuring your piece. This project is so easy to just work and then measure and see how close you are and add some more rows if you need, or take some rows away. So my recommendation is just to make sure the width is how wide you want it to be when you're wearing it, and then you can just crochet along here and measure the length and make sure it matches up to my given measurements. I will provide the information for the widths, depending on the size, in the description box below, so go ahead and check there. To count the number of rows here, you can look to the vertical bars that are right there in between the sideways V shape. 1, 2, 3 vertical bars, that's equal to 3 rows. Here's your chart now showing how many rows you should have depending on the size that you're working. Basically, for the finish, we're going to work slip stitches across. The loop on our hook is going to count as our first stitch. I'm going to insert into the top front vertical bar as normal. Then I'll yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. Insert into the next top front vertical bar, yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. Insert my hook into the next vertical bar, yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. And I'll continue working across the row. Just one more stitch left here, and I'm going to insert into the whole entire stitch as I have been doing, picking up both loops there. Then yarn over, pull through that stitch and the loop that's on my hook. And that finishes off the finish. Before you fasten off after binding off, I recommend measuring your work. Measure from the beginning all the way to the end here and see if it's matching up to the measurements that I've provided. This is the best time to check this. After you fasten off, then you have a little bit extra work to reattach yarn. If it's not measuring the length that you need, then go ahead and take out the stitching for the bind off, add a couple more rows, do your bind off again, measure before fastening off, and just make sure that it's going to be the correct size. This will ensure that you're going to have an ear warmer that is going to fit correctly. Alrighty, now that we've finished the bind off, we're going to fasten off, and we're going to do it with a long tail end because we're going to use this to seam up our ear warmer. Then I'm going to go back to this loop from the last stitch, and I'm going to pull up on it until the tail end comes out. Now I'm going to go to the beginning tail end and weave that in before I start assembling. So I'm threading this into my tapestry needle. I'm going to come here to the right side where there's a V-shaped stitch underneath where my thread is coming out of. I'm going to insert from the back side to the front side underneath both loops of that V shape and pull through. Then I will insert into the very first stitch here right into the center from the right side to the wrong side, front to back, and pull through. And that helps with the shaping here on the side. And then now that it's on the back, I'm going to go ahead and just weave it in here. As I work, I'm going to break my stitches in half when I enter and when I exit, and that's just going to help capture my yarn better. I'm going to work it vertically here, not horizontally, so that it doesn't bunch up any of my fabric here. Just under a few stitches. Then use my fingers to manipulate the fabric so that it lays naturally. Turn my work. Insert into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half. Run my needle under several of the stitches I just worked, and break my last stitch in half as well. Manipulate the fabric. I like to do 3, but I'm feeling pretty confident in this, so I'm going to go ahead and fasten off, and I'm going to fasten off just with a little bit longer. I'm not going to do it straight up against the fabric. I'm going to give it a little bit there as it pulls from being used. That tail end's going to go in there and it's going to be secured and hidden. Alright, now it's time to do the seaming, so I'm going to go ahead and thread the other side into my tapestry needle. I'm going to lay the fabric with the right side facing up. That's the pretty side of the work. Then I'm going to take these sides and I'm going to fold them in half so that the wrong side is facing, the back side is facing, and it is folded in half with the right sides facing each other. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other side, folding it in half so the right sides are facing and it's equal distances here. And now I'm going to sandwich these together. So on the right side here I have a bottom side and a top side, and on the left side I have a bottom and a top. I'm going to take the bottom from the right side and I'm going to sandwich it in between the left side. Then the top of the right side is going to lay on the top of the left side. And I want everything to lay evenly. Now we're going to take our tapestry needle, which is coming out here on the bottom right side. That's where the strand is attached to the needle. And I'm going to sew all the layers. There's 4 layers here, all the layers together at the same time. My tail end is down here at the bottom right. I'm just going to tighten up that stitch there so it's not too loose. And then I'm going to bring my needle up to the top here. And I'm going to work down through all 4 layers, trying to catch a little stitch from each of those layers as I work down. And then pull through. I am going to grab some jewelry pliers to help me. Weaving in your ends, these are really helpful too. And I'm just going to use it to save my fingers. And then before I tighten it all the way, this is the beginning of my tail end, so I'm just going to bring it around to the side here and hold it in place and then tighten it up. And now I'm going to continue working. This time I'm going to work from the bottom across, so I'm going to insert into the next stitch here to the left. Work upwards through all 4 layers, coming out on the top, and pull through. Then I'll move to the left a little bit, insert from the top here, downward through all those layers coming out of the bottom, and pull through. And I'm going to continue working all the way across till I get to the very end of the row. Here's my very last stitch, and I'm just making sure to capture everything there on the end. And I'll pull through. Now before I weave this in, what I like to do is I like to turn my ear warmer to the right side. And I like to make sure that where the twist is, all the layers are being held in place. If it looks like there's a hole, like I missed a stitch, then I can very easily add that in here before I weave it in. So let's say I missed a stitch here in the middle, I could just insert my needle here coming out of the middle, pull it through, and then close it back up. But since it looks good, I'm going to go ahead and just weave in this final tail. I am going to trim it down here to a reasonable size since I cut off too much. And then I'll weave it in the same exact way that I weaved in the other one. The only difference is I'm going to weave it in here horizontally in the bulkiness of the seam that I just created. And then that's it. The ear warmer is going to be ready to wear. Before weaving in your final end, try on your ear warmer, make sure it fits the way that you want. If it is too snug and you want to add some rows to it, it is really easy at this step to just pull your work apart and pick this strand out. Then you can undo your bind off row and add a couple more rows. Once you weave in this end, then it's pretty much a done deal. Alrighty, now you can turn this to the right side. There's your twisted part right there, and you're ready to wear it out. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. You'll find the free crochet pattern for this linked in the description box below. Please smash that like button and hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.